What's up guys, welcome to Echo Productions. I'm Silas Willoughby, and a little while ago I made a video about how to shoot and edit like Peter McKinnon. And you guys seem to really like it. So today I want to take a look at my personal favorite member of the Dope Squad, Matti Haapoja. Anyway, let's get into the video. Now, I don't condone ripping off other creators' style at all, but learning the basics of what other creators do is a great place to get started and a really good way to learn a lot in a short span of time. First up is camera settings. Now, Matti usually uses the Canon 6D Mark II for his vlogs. At least he did. He wasn't really clear about whether he was going to switch to the Sony a7 III. He also has the Canon 1DX Mark II and the Canon C200. And he does use them, but normally it's the 60 since it's so easy to travel with. In terms of lenses, Matti is most often on the 16 to 35mm, but for his B-roll it often looks like he's using a tighter lens, maybe an 85 or 70 to 200mm. I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to focus mostly on he shoots his B-roll sequences. For his B-roll he tends to leave his aperture wide open to get that beautiful smooth bokeh. And to compensate for that, he seems to almost always use an ND filter to keep his shutter speed lower. He uses a 180-degree shutter most of the time for smooth, realistic motion blur. For those of you who don't know, a 180-degree shutter is when your shutter speed is twice that of your frame rate. So for 24 FPS it's 48, and 120 FPS it's 240. And yes, those are the frame rates Matti usually uses. He shoots in 24 FPS for his vlog, talking footage, and 120 FPS for his slow motion B-roll shots. In terms of resolution, he shoots almost everything in 1080p. Now, just using those same settings is not going to get you the same quality of video Matti puts out on a regular basis. Experience and practice are a big part, and he does do a few other things when shooting his videos that I want to take a minute to point out here. First off, while he does often shoot handheld, he also uses either a glide cam or a gimbal to stabilize his shots a lot of the time. And that's why I like Matti's videos so much. He takes a lot of time to plan out his videos and puts more effort into his shots than most people, like a true filmmaker. Anyway, I don't have time to even try and explain everything Matti does right now, so let's move into editing. Okay, so as you can see I'm in Adobe Premiere since it's the same software Matti uses, and well, it's the best. Anyway, I've already imported my footage and I filmed all of this in 60 FPS since my camera doesn't go up to 120. But it still works for slow motion. And to slow it down, I'm going to select it all, right click, modify, interpret footage, assume this frame rate, and then type in 23.976. Next, I'm going to go to each clip in my media bin and trim them up by selecting the in and out points on each clip, so they only show the parts I want in the final video. Next, I'm going to find my music track and drag it onto the timeline. Then I'm going to go through and while listening to the track, put a marker everywhere I want to cut. This helps me line up my cuts to the music. To lay down a marker, hit M on your keyboard. Then go to your media pool, select your clips, and go up to Clip, Automate to Sequence and choose At Markers. Then click OK, and it should drop your clips in so that they cut with the beat of the song you chose. Next, I want to add a few of the effects Matti uses on a regular basis in his videos. The first would be speed ramps. Matti often does these with his slow motion shots. To do this, go to your clip in your timeline and right click on the FX symbol. Then go down to Time Remapping, Speed. Once you've checked that, scale up your timeline a bit so you can see what you're doing. Now I'm going to go where I want the speed ramp to start, and I'm using a shot of me jumping off the cliff that I shot in 240 FPS on my GoPro Hero 6. So it's nice and slow. I want it to smoothly go into slow motion once I've jumped, so I'm hitting P on my keyboard to pull up the pen tool, and then clicking on the clip where I want the ramp to start. Then go over to the side you want faster and drag that line up using the selection tool. I'm going to about 500%. Then to smooth out the transition, click and drag the handles and it should give you a nice smooth speed ramp. Something else I've noticed that Matti does is add a parallax to his drone footage to make it more dynamic. And I've included this in my video how to edit your drone footage, so I'm not going to go in depth here at all. But the basic idea is that you zoom in or out while your drone is flying either backwards or forwards, and you get this nice warp effect. Anyway, let's move on to color grading. Matti has a very cinematic style to his color grading, and he does sell his presets, so if you can afford them, I'd highly suggest you get them. They're great high quality LUTs, but I'm going to try and do today's entire grade without the help of any LUTs. Let's get into it. First up, I want to adjust the lighting, so I'm dragging on an adjustment layer and then dropping the saturation to 0 so I can focus on just the luminance values. Since I shoot in log, I have a lot of adjusting to do. So I'm going to add some contrast in the basics corrections just to start off, and then go to the curves effect and add a subtle S-curve. I'm keeping a close eye on the scopes while I do this so that I don't push my blacks too far or my highlights too much. Once I've got the luminance to my liking, I'm going to add some saturation, again in the basic corrections. I'm pushing it to about 108. And now that I've done the basic corrections, I want to grade the image. To start, I'm going down to the Color Wheels tab in the Lumetri panel, and Matti usually does a teal and orange color grade, so I'm going to push my highlights slightly towards orange. More on the yellow side than the red side though. And the shadows towards teal a bit. Now go to the midtones and push them towards orange as well. This time I'm keeping it more on the red side. Now back in the basic corrections, I'm going to pull the shadows up a bit to around 5, and then push the blacks towards black a little bit. This makes the blacks blacker, but it also keeps some of our dynamic range. Now in the creative tab, I want to sharpen my footage a bit. I'm pushing it towards around 20, and the rest really depends on your specific shot. But I went through and tweaked the HSL a bit, pushing my skin tones a bit redder and making my greens a bit brighter. I've created a LUT from today's tutorial if you want to download that. I've put a link in the description. Anyway, that's all I've got time for today. If you don't already know who Matti is, make sure to check out his channel, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you're notified every time I upload a new video. Anyway, this has been Echo Productions, I'm Silas Willoughby, and I'll see you in the next one.